Hello and welcome to Reading 0365 Week 4. This week we're concentrating on supporting details. Last week we looked at main idea. Well, supporting details are what are going to tell you the important information about main ideas, but most importantly, we're going to learn how to organize the main ideas and supporting details. I feel that this is a very important chapter because if you know how to organize, and more than that, if you know how to recognize the main ideas and the supporting details, when you're studying long texts, let's say that you are in a history class or you are in a biology class, you will have a much better way of organizing your information. So when you go and study it, it's not going to be so much material because you have already either summarized it or paraphrased it or made an outline, and on top of that you have also annotated the chapter like we studied a couple weeks ago. So the main organizational aids that we're going to be looking at this week are outlines, summaries, and paraphrases. So I am sure that you have studied outlines in other classes. Also, if you go to your book on page 105, there's an explanation of outlines there. If you also go to the back of the book, you will be able to see more about outlining on page 621. There are many different ways that you can outline the material. The way that I think it's clearer is the one that I'm showing you here, where you have Roman numerals for the main topic. So you have main topic 1 and main topic 2 with Roman numerals. You indent and then you write with letters major supporting detail, another major supporting detail, A and B. Indent again, and you have as many minor supporting details as you want, 1, 2, 3, so on. Let me show you an example of what I mean. Okay, so suppose you're outlining a speech on the effects of El Nino. These are some of the ideas you feel should be included: disastrous weather effects, job loss, powerlessness, and insurance costs. To put these ideas into outline form, decide first on the main ideas. This might be disastrous weather effects, not so bad effects, long-term effects, really important effects. So next you decide where the rest of the important ideas fit in. So for example, we have Roman numeral disastrous weather effects. This should be really indented, except it didn't work out, so the A should be indented. You have A, December ice storm in Maine, and then what are the things that happened? There was a huge power outage, school was out for 2 weeks, job loss, cost increased, and so on. All of this again should be indented, but the important thing to see here is that you have the Roman numeral, you have the capital letters, and then you have the minor details. Moving down the page, let me show you another one. For example, C, weather in Florida. So for weather in Florida, we have killer tornadoes, freezing March, dead oranges, and so on. Other disasters, the only thing with this example is not indented, but you have all the main elements. Then the second major point or main idea, not so bad effects, and then it lists what is not so bad, long-term effects, and so on. So you get an idea. What I would like you to do now is go to your book, page 109. You can pause this for a minute, and there's a chapter there that starts outlining, and you can see, no, sorry, it's not page 10, yeah, it is page 109. Yeah, so there's a paragraph there, practice 1, where it defines intimacy, and the book has outlined it into main idea and major details, and then all the major details. But what I would like you to do is to use the format that I'm giving you here. So you have your main idea, A is the major detail, and then you have 2 minor details. So I would like you to find what is the second main idea, and so on. So go ahead and do this exercise so you can see a different way of outlining. Your book is using just major details here, but I would like you to also include major and minor. The next organizational pattern we're going to discuss is paraphrasing, which is basically stating what the author said but using your own words and own style. And and then summarizing, where you're condensing what the author states to the main points or main ideas only. And I'm going to show you a few more points about this. Okay, so we have that a summary is a condensed or a short version of the main ideas of all or part of a source, and it's normally written in your own words. If it is an academic summary containing definitions or data, you can use that portion of the summary. So for example, if it has a definition, you can use the definition in your summary. Otherwise, you just can use your own words. When you paraphrase, however, you want to reword a particular point, not necessarily shorten it, but it uses your own style and your own word. Now, what are the major steps to write a summary or a paraphrase? The first thing you need to do is read your source carefully, several times. The most important thing comes next. Once you've read it and you've understood it well, if I were you, I would put the text away. You may use a few notes if you want, but the key is to put the text away, because if not, you're just tempted to copy. But if you put it away, then you write the information in your own words. And the important thing is not to include your own ideas or commentary, because a summary is not about what you think, but it's about what the author said. And then you document where you took the information from. Remember that when you paraphrase, your writing must reflect your own writing style, not the author's. So do not leave any important information out. Paraphrasing is not about making it shorter like it was in the summary. The paraphrase must be clearly identified as presenting the author's ideas. So even if you're not using the author's words but the ideas are from somewhere else, you must get a parenthesis and put the source. Normally we use the present tense when referring to the author. And remember that when you summarize, you're going to include only the main idea and major supporting details if they're important. Do not include any major details. If you need to include a definition, you can get it from the text. Here is a definition of an example of paraphrasing and summarizing. So let's look at the original passage. Students frequently overuse direct quotation in taking notes, and as a result, they overuse quotations in the final paper. Probably only about 10% of your final manuscript should appear as directly quoted matter. Therefore, you should strive to limit the amount of exact transcribing of source materials while taking notes. And this was taken from Lester James Writing Research Paper, 2nd edition, 1976, pages 46 to 47. So now if we go back to the paraphrase, we can say in research papers, students often quote excessively, failing to keep quoted materials down to a desirable level. Since the problem usually originates during note-taking, it is essential to minimize the material recorded verbatim. You can go back to the previous slide to compare the two and see why. The information is exactly the same. I have not shortened it, but I am using different words and a different writing style. Now the summary, students should just take a few notes in direct quotation from sources to help minimize the amount of quoted material in a research paper. You see here we have left details out and just the main idea is in the summary. If you look at the plagiarized version, you can see students often use too many direct quotations when they take notes, resulting in too many of them in the final research paper. I'm not going to read it all, but I want you to compare it with the original, and you can see that all that I've done here is exchange one word for the other. That is definitely plagiarized, because you are not supposed to just be exchanging one word for the other, but actually putting it all in your own words. This is probably something that was done by looking at the original material. That's why I really want to encourage you not to do that. One other thing that I want to show you is an example of annotations. Most of you sent me your annotations this week, but I found that some of you had not annotated enough. So I want to show you here. There's an annotation of a chapter that's called Personal Conflict Styles. So the way that I've annotated here First of all, I highlighted, here is the thesis that's highlighted. The differences between non-assertive, directly aggressive, passive-aggressive, indirect, and assertive behavior should be clear. And I marked it by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's going to be 5. Here you can see that the thesis is clearly marked. And up here I have written example of what might bother you, plus ways to handle this. On the margin next here I have written DEF, which stands for definition, and then what are they defining? Non-assertion. What have I done? I have highlighted. Comes lack of confidence. Notice that I have not underlined every word, but just what's important. Explanation for non-assertiveness, and then on the other side I've written true. Is that true? And then again another highlighted main idea, and then here for conversational I wrote best way. That's the best way for me. And then further down here I wrote on the margin examples of how non-assertive person reacts, and then I said not healthy, and then I said serious consequence. And then finally you can say that I said must be a better way to handle conflict. So this is almost like having a conversation with the text. I just want you to do another highlight this week. I'm not going to ask you to send me an annotation, but I would like you to annotate the text as you read it. Review the material that I put in week 1 about annotations, and try to do an annotation when you are interacting a little bit more with the reading. Finally, just a few reminders. First of all, this week you have to do quiz number 1. It is based on the first 3 chapters. Please make sure that you complete it between Friday at 8 a.m. and Monday actually at 11:55 p.m. I'm going to change the time there. It is timed. You have 75 minutes to complete it, so make sure you are in a quiet place, that nobody bothers you while you complete it. As soon as the time is close, I think they're going to give you like 1-minute warning, and then it's going to close. So give yourself enough time. The other thing that I need to remind you, it's not here, but that I changed the date for the mastery test. So now you have to complete them by Wednesday of this week. And then one last thing that I want you to do this week, and I'm going to show you, when you go to YouTube, I want you to leave a comment. Let me show you where. Okay, so this is the presentation from last week. I see that it has 26 views, so some of you must have seen it more than once. What I would like you to do now is to go down where it says all comments, and where it says leave a comment. Please leave a comment telling me if the voice is clear, if it's loud enough, or I need to do it a little bit louder or a little bit softer, and then whether you find this useful or not. So I want to make sure that everybody who sees it leaves a comment, so I see if you have done this work or not. Most of you are doing it, but it will be helpful to see what you think at this point. All right, I hope this is all for this week, and I hope you have a nice week.